What's up, guys? Mr. Octagonal here from Octagonal Gaming, and we're back with our NFL predictions here. It's Week 17, the final week. This season has just flown by. Yeah, it's literally flying. And now 20 teams are going to be playing their last games of their seasons tomorrow. I mean, everyone's going to play their last game in 2017, but, because tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Anyway, actually, today's New Year's Eve. I'm recording this on Saturday, but, when you're seeing this, it'll probably be on New Year's Eve, if that makes sense. So, without further ado, last week we had another great week, going 12-4 again, and 114 points, so almost identical to last week. Hopefully we can finish out the season with less than 100 losses. That'd be pretty nice. Overall, this year has not been great at all. I think we could have done a lot better. We could have done worse, but we definitely could have been better. We've definitely done better the second half of the season. I think we had a very rough first half of the year, and that's really set us back, sort of. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. For the final time, we're going to make our picks. So, actually, I'll probably do playoff picks, but, those are much less. Wild card round, 4 games. Divisional round, 4 games. Conference round, 2 games. Super Bowl, 1 game. But anyway, this is the last week with, most of the teams playing, the Cleveland Browns, who are obviously not making the playoffs. They've already clinched the number 1 overall pick. But anyway, so if you don't know how these picks work, we pick each game, but we go above and beyond. We give each game, a point rating from 1 through 16, since there will be 16 games this week. Of course, buys ended, a month ago. So, what we do is, let's say we have the Buccaneers and the Chargers. Just as an example, we think the Bucs are going to win, but we're not super confident. We might pick them with a 1. If the Bucs want to get 1 point, if the Chargers win, I get 0 points. But let's say we have the Patriots and the Browns, and I'm smoking crack, and I think the Browns are going to win, and I'm super confident that the Browns are going to win, I might pick them with a 16. So if the Browns win, I get 16 points. If the Patriots win, I get 0 points. So first we have the Texans and Colts. As you can see, J.J. Watt and Andrew Luck there. Both of them have been injured pretty much the whole year. Andrew Luck has not played. J.J. Watt's played a little. He was also hurt most of last year as well. As both these teams, especially the Texans, dwindled by injuries. The Colts, just outside of Andrew Luck, the Colts have no talent. And the Texans, they definitely would be a playoff team if they didn't have all these injuries. J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Deshaun Watson. They would definitely be in the playoffs, and the Jaguars, both in the AFC South. And the AFC is weak, so the Texans at worst would be the 5 seed with the Jaguars' success. But I am picking the Colts with a 1. Both teams suck. Both teams are just playing for a higher draft pick. Actually, the Texans aren't, because the Browns have it from the Deshaun Watson trade. If the Colts win, then I think they drop to the 4th pick. So the Browns are rooting for the Colts. And I do think the Colts are going to win. I don't know why, just a gut feeling. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is playing for the Texans, which is a pretty big deal. He's been their lone good player. Despite the quarterback issues, DeAndre Hopkins has been so good. I think he's the 3rd best wide receiver in the NFL. I think Odell is a great player. I think Odell is the 4th best receiver in the NFL. Maybe 8. Okay, my top 5 is Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. That's 1 and 2. I think everyone can agree that those 2 are the top 2. Maybe not Antonio over Julio. DeAndre Hopkins, then Odell, then A.J. Green. I think DeAndre Hopkins is extremely overlooked. And I think this season has shown that he is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. And I think the Texans will miss him, and I think the Colts are going to win. Now we have the Panthers and Falcons. This game actually does have a lot to do with playoff implications. If the Falcons win, they're in. They get the 6th seed. And if the Panthers win, then they have a chance of winning the NFC South. The Panthers have already clinched. So if the Panthers win and Saints lose, Panthers get division. If the Panthers win, if the Rams and Saints, I think win, and the Vikings lose, then the Panthers get the 2 seed, which is pretty crazy. I actually think the Saints probably need to lose, and the Rams too. I read something on ESPN about it. It said those 2 teams need to win. I think that's clearly wrong. But the Panthers have a 0.4% chance of getting that number 2 seed. But they're the only team other than the Vikings to have a chance. But I think the Falcons will win this game. I think they're going to put their fate in their own hands and clinch the final playoff spot in the NFC. I still think the Panthers will be the 5 seed, since I don't think all that magic is going to happen with the 0.4% chance. Now we have the Bills and Dolphins. The Dolphins are out, and the Bills still have a chance of making it. They're one of the 4 teams, as well as the Ravens, Titans, and Chargers fighting for the 2 wildcard spots in the AFC. All 4 of the division winners have been clinched with the Patriots, Steelers, Jaguars, and Kansas City Chiefs. But those teams all have a shot of making it. They're all 8-6. And I think the Titans are going to win. Or not the Titans. What? No, not the Titans. I mean the Dolphins. They're not on the Titans yet. And I don't even think the Titans are going to win this week. But I think the Dolphins are going to win. Another gut feeling. I think the Bills. I think they're the 7th best team in the AFC. I don't think they deserve to make the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They broke their streak. The Bills have not made the playoffs since 1999, the longest streak in the NFL. And I think that streak is going to stay. But if they didn't trade like Sammy Watkins and Ronald Darby, then they'd have a better chance of making it. But they have a lot of picks going into this draft, so good for them. Now we have the Cowboys and Eagles. Neither of these teams are playing for anything. The Eagles have already clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC. No, just the NFC, not divisions. No. The Eagles have already clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC, and the Cowboys looking for pride like a lot of these teams are against divisional rivals since everyone's playing against a divisional opponent. I think the Cowboys are going to win a pretty meaningless game. I think all the Cowboys fans are going to be so excited. Oh, wait. You're not in the playoffs. Boo-hoo. Recap, I am picking the Colts with a 1, Falcons with a 2, Dolphins with a 3, Cowboys with a 4, and now we have the Rams and the Niners. For Rams, they're not going to get a first round bye. They're going to get the 3 or the 4 seed. It doesn't seem like they're going to really play much since they've already said they're going to rest a lot of their key players. Meanwhile, the Niners are red hot. They've won 4 in a row, and they've been looking good. I'm going to pick the Niners to win this game over a playoff team. I'm picking the Niners with a 5. I think the Rams are the better team. But I think the Niners have been playing really well. I picked the Niners to win 5 games at the beginning of this year. I'm going to be closer than a lot of people. Because the Niners, they actually do have a horrendous roster. But Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely the real deal. I think he's going to be 5-0 in starts this year. And I think the Niners will beat the LA Rams. Now we have the Packers and the Lions. As you guys all know, or you should know if you've watched the channel, I'm a huge Detroit Lions fan, so I'm very upset that we can't beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Why do you have to lose to the damn Bengals? That just blows my mind that we actually lost to the Bengals. Does not make any sense, but it is what it is. And meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers, they're eliminated. They're 7-8. Nothing to play for. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is on IR. So for the Lions, I'm okay if we win or lose. If we lose, we get a higher draft spot. And if we win, then we beat the Packers both times this year. So I'm kind of rooting for us to win. Normally I root for us to lose in this scenario, but I am rooting for the Lions to win so I can say we swept the Packers. Don't get to say that so often, do we? We could have said that in 2015, but of course, face mask, Hail Mary, we don't need to discuss that. But I do think the Lions will win this game. I'm going to pick them with a 6. We're going to beat the Packers, but yet we can't beat the Bengals. Typical Lions fashion. Now we have the Jaguars and the Titans. The Jaguars aren't playing for much. I think they've already clinched the 3 seed, if I'm not mistaken. And the Titans are playing for something, as they're, of course, one of the 4 teams fighting for a playoff spot in the AFC. And the Titans have been ice cold. The Jaguars did lose to the Niners. Blake Bortles did not play particularly well. But I do think the Jaguars are going to win, just get bragging rights over their divisional rival and eliminate their divisional rival from the playoff contention. So I'm going to pick Jacksonville with a 7. Recap, been picking the 49ers with a 5, the Lions with a 6, the Jaguars with a 7, and now we have the Ravens and Bengals. The Bengals had to crush our playoff hopes in the final home game being coached by Marvin Lewis. Now this is Marvin Lewis's final game before he steps down from the coaching position, aka gets fired, because, I mean, what I'm assuming happened is Marvin Lewis said this would be his last year. So I'm guessing the Bengals told him, you can say this is your final year, or we'll say it. And Marvin Lewis decided to say it. Good for him. He's been a coach for a while. Never won a playoff game. Don't know how he has a job. Meanwhile, the Ravens fighting for that playoff spot. I think they're going to win this game, and I think they will clinch that 5th seed in the AFC. I think they're deserving of a wild card spot. I think they're the 6th best team in the conference. I think the Chargers are better than them. But, yeah. Go Ravens, I guess, even though I'm not a Ravens fan, and they crushed us this year, but the Bengals beat us too. Just great. Now we have the Ravens and Giants. This has nothing to do with the playoffs, but Might be Eli Manning's final game as a New York Giant. He might go to Jacksonville, reunite with Tom Coughlin. He might go to Denver. There are numerous landing spots for him. And for Redskins, they're on a 2-game win streak, and I think they're going to make it 3. The Redskins are a pretty decent team. If they're in the AFC, they'd certainly have a shot at the playoffs. I think they'd be eliminated, but, like, the Redskins are better than the Titans. The Redskins are probably better than the Bills. And maybe even better than the Chargers, but regardless, the Giants suck. Picking the Redskins with a 9. We have the Broncos and the Chiefs. This game also has nothing to do with the playoffs, I don't think, since the Chiefs have already clinched the AFC West. It looks like they're locked at that number 4 seed. But Broncos, I think they're 5-10. I think they're on a 2-game winning streak, actually, but they've beaten the Jets and the Colts. That's not really much of an accomplishment. And I think they will not be on a 3-game win streak as they will lose to the Chiefs. And I'm picking the Chiefs with a 10. Raiders have sucked this year. And meanwhile, the Chargers are fighting for a playoff spot. I think they're deserving of a playoff spot. And with that, I think the Chargers will win this game. I think that I'm going to pick them with an 11. And with the Bills and Titans losing, I think that means the Chargers will clinch the 6th seed. Don't see them getting out of Jacksonville, but Jacksonville is very inexperienced and very young. They've not made the playoffs for a decade now, the Jaguars. And the Chargers, last time they were in serious contention was back in 2009 when they were 1-1 away from making the Super Bowl and they lost to the Colts, who ended up losing to the Saints in Super Bowl 44. But regardless, I think the Chargers will win, and I'm going to pick them with an 11. Recap, I'm picking the Ravens with an 8, Redskins with a 9, Chiefs with a 10, Chargers with an 11. And now we have the Cardinals and Seahawks. The Cardinals are 7-8. I think their roster does not show 7-8 team. I think their roster is an at best 5-win team. David Johnson's not played since week 1. Garza Ballmer's not played since week 5. I mean, Adrian Peterson's played pretty well. But the Seahawks, they actually are playing for something. They need to win this game, and they need the Falcons to lose. So if the Falcons lose, then their fate is in their own hands. I think the Seahawks will win this game because they're a much better team than the Cardinals, but I do have the Falcons winning. I think the Seahawks winning is pretty much a lock. So I think it comes down to if the Falcons can beat the Panthers to see who gets the 6th seed in the NFC. Bucs have sucked this year. They've been one of the most underwhelming and underperforming teams in the NFL this year. I picked them to win the very good NFC South this year, which looks like they'll have 3 playoff teams. And the Bucs are the only one who's not in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Saints are 11-4 with a win or Panthers lost. I think they'll clinch the division. I think both is going to happen. I think Panthers are going to lose, as we saw earlier in the video. And I think the Saints will win this game. I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC South. The Saints have been my pick to make the Super Bowl since like week 5 or 6. And at this point, they still are. The problem is they've lost to teams like the Vikings and the Rams, which does affect home field. Which I don't think it will much with the Vikings, since the Vikings will be better than them regardless. But that Rams loss is going to be a pretty big deal if those two teams were to meet in the conference championship. The Bears are trash. They are coming off a win last week, but it's against the Browns, so who really cares? And meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings, very good team. The Vikings don't have much to play for, since they have a 99.6% chance of locking the 2 seed. But I think they're going to win this game. I think that'll make them 13-3. And I think that will give them the 2 seed in the NFC. Jets have nothing to play for. The Patriots do. So if the Patriots, if they win or the Steelers lose, the Patriots will clinch for 1 seed. And I do see the Patriots winning because the Jets suck. Picking the Patriots at 15. Not much to explain. Final mini recap this season. I'm picking the Seahawks with a 12, Saints with a 13, Vikings with a 14, Patriots with a 15. And now we have the Steelers and the Browns. The Steelers are a very good team. They're my Super Bowl pick right now in the AFC. Meanwhile, the Browns are 0-15. And if they lose this game, they'll be the second team in NFL history with the first beating the 2008 Lions to go 0-16. And with that, I do expect that to happen. And the Browns will go 0-16. I'm sorry, Cleveland. You are very good.
Hey, man!